Tjena tjena, vi är här på DreamHack Bukarest och vi står här med en av värdarna för Dota 2-turneringen som går av stapeln nu idag, och det är ingen mindre än Zyori Campbell from Beyond the Summit. Hi Zyori.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, excited to be here. My first time in Romania, so it's pretty exciting.
You're pretty used to like traveling to Eastern Europe by now, right, with doing all the star ladders and stuff.
I'm getting there. I've been to Kiev twice. I've went to China and Malaysia already this year, so I've been traveling at least once a month pretty much since 2015 rolled over.
And you've kind of like been filling the sort of niche then of being sort of like a host for the casters rather than casting at the big tournaments themselves. So like, how does that feel as you came into the scene in Hon and you were a caster to begin with? So how do you feel with that transition?
Yeah, I'm kind of the official host for BTS. That's kind of how we've tried to brand me, but unfortunately there's not really enough stuff out there to just host full time. So it's really hard to brand yourself that way exclusively. Casting is kind of my bread and butter day to day. I would say casting is a little bit more fun, but it's also a lot harder. It takes more energy, it just takes more cadence. I really like hosting, honestly. I think it's pretty easy. I think I'm a fairly natural fit for it. I'm pretty inquisitive. I like to ask people questions anyway. So that's basically all hosting is just going through the motions, queuing videos, and then asking people questions. So I really enjoy it. I'd love to host more often. Hoping that I get to do some hosting at TI5, but only time will tell. Still no details on that front yet.
But like then, how do you develop to become more interesting? Because it's kind of like you say that you just ask questions and then you cue the videos and everything, and then you get off the stage, whatever. But like, how do you then make that interesting? Like, what kind of questions do you feel like you need to ask the panelists and everything? Like, if you don't have a pro player at hand.
Well, I feel like doing hosting work with a panel is almost more about the mix of people you have on the panel than how good of a job the host is doing. You know, outside of just the basic stuff, not repeating yourself too much, you know, making good eye contact with people in the camera and not shuffling around to their notes. I think one of the biggest things is really knowing what you're talking about and saying things definitively. One of the worst things you can do as a host is do that. Oh, I think coming up next we might have, you know, you really want to know your shit. You're the guy that should really know everything, and you know the analysts can kind of play that airhead card a little bit if they want to. But more importantly, it's about having a good spread of people. Some panels I think are really just set up to fail. If you have two people kind of like myself that are more of a host, kind of fluff, play-by-play type guy, if you don't have any analysts on your panel, any ex-pro players or anyone like that, it's just not going to work. You need that dynamic. That's why someone like God, someone like Purge are really good, because they know so much about Dota. They could really just talk about it endlessly, I feel like.
Like, on the topic of analysts in Dota, like, of course we have, like, I guess Merlini and Purge and everything like that, but I think that casting in general in Dota has sort of always, or like now seems to have reached this level where people feel like, well, it's the same bunch of people casting the same kind of stuff all the time, you know, and like, you always see the same faces. Do you agree with that sentiment at all?
Well, it's definitely true. We see a lot of the same faces, especially for like the premium talent. It's all really a gray area where you draw the lines of A tier, B tier. But you know, someone like Synderen, he is, I would say, the most sought after analyst out there right now. He can play pretty much any role where he could do play-by-play. He's funny, he's charismatic, and he knows a lot about the game. He's a really good analyst. So on that notion, I think you're definitely right. We see those top tier people, your LDs, your Tobys, at every big event, because they're just simply the best, and all of the top tier events want the best at their events. There's also just a lot of events right now, so I think viewers and talent alike are starting to get a little bit burned out in terms of just the raw amount of events and just how much traveling is going about. For me personally, I really like traveling, so I don't find it quite as stressful, but not everybody enjoys traveling as much as myself and Parker, for example. So yeah, I think we do see a lot of the same faces over and over, but you know, OD Pixel, he's on the rise. Coddle Guy, he's sort of established now, but he was on the rise towards the tail end of last year. So we're seeing some new faces here and there, but it's hard, man. It's hard to break through.
Yeah. So like, do you like I don't know how much of Dream League you watched this season, but they've obviously got their own sort of niche now where they, like you said, they brought in OD Pixel, they have Shane and everyone, like maybe not like the most knowledgeable casters, but they're great at like keeping the game rolling, like the momentum going and everything. And you know, they aren't the most established people, but they create this sort of more like buddy atmosphere and everything. Do you think that that's a good take on it?
I do. I think it's really important to have variety. That's one of the things that I think our community forgets about a lot, where we get caught up in having the best of the best all the time. And that's one of the fallacies in that argument about oversaturation and how it's destroying Dota. And I think it's the opposite. It's good to have top tier teams that pick and choose events. One, because it's good, it forces events to really step up their game. If you want Secret, Cloud9, all the top tier teams, you have to really be a top tier event, make sure their accommodations are taken care of, and you know, you pay out your prize pool on time, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's good on that front, but it makes makes events more interesting when you have different teams at different events and you have this different mixture. I mean, London Conspiracy being thrown in here, I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. It's not a team that people will really get excited about, but it creates that storyline for an underdog to come. You know, all they have to do is upset Secret or Cloud9, and all of a sudden, this team's got a lot of attention on them. So I like the variety. You know, we've at BTS have always wanted to have a really wide breadth of talent. You know, we have casters like Cyclops, for example, Lysander back when he used to be a little more trolly and clowny. Some people really hate Cyclops. Yeah. You know, every time it's on, they're just like, I can't watch this. And some people think he's hysterical and love him. And we see that as a good thing. Having that variety is awesome. You have to be a little more choosy when you have really top tier, you know, like content LAN events. I don't know that Cyclops will be casting the finals of TI anytime soon, but I think it's really important to have some comedy, and you know, people like Sir Action Slacks, for example. I think what he does is very valuable. Pyrian Flax, Shane, you know, it just has to be put in the right situations, and I think Dream League has done a pretty good job of that. I like that they're also doing just weird stuff in general with the button, you know, the panic button and all the. There's just all this strange stuff. It's very interesting. They do a good job of keeping me entertained with and without Dota topics. So I like it personally.
Speaking of keeping the audience entertained, the Summit 3 is just around Bend. So I mean, that's. I mean, what are your expectations going into that? Since the Summit 2 was such a mammoth event, like not only being like the biggest in terms of prize pool, the biggest Western event outside of TI to ever have. Like, I think you had like 350K prize pool.
A little bit less, but yeah, it was like 340, something like that.
Yeah. So like, obviously, what are the expectations for the next like edition? Like, it's still in the same studio. Like, you upgraded between the last summits, as far as I read.
Yeah, we went from 6 teams to 8 teams. Yeah. That was the big improvement we made, and for us, that it introduces a whole nother layer of logistics because our house isn't really big enough for 8 teams and all of the support staff. Before, we could kind of just bring everybody over to the house, everyone could hang out, and it was very simplistic. Now we have a practice area set up, and we have to be kind of cautious about the amount of people we have at the house, so we have to cart teams back and forth at different times. So that's been an additional stressor that we've had to deal with. This go around, we're also just a lot more busy. We have this event, and we have Red Bull that has been interspersed throughout earlier this month and will be coming up. We're going to be doing the finals of the Red Bull event like a few days right before the Summit 3 actually starts. So it's been very stressful on that end, but we're feeling pretty good. We moved all of our furniture out like a month ahead of time. I've been sleeping on the floor for the past 2 weeks. It's great to have a bed at the hotel here, but we're a lot more prepared this time. We're building our own PCs, which we were streaming a couple days before we left. So we're, again, excited about having that control over the hardware with hot swap hard drives, all this kind of stuff. So we're making a lot of improvements, and I think the event itself will run a lot smoother. There should be very few PC issues this go around. Certainly less than last time, though. That's not really saying much.
So we're not going to see beyond the schedule then?
Hopefully not, but that seems to be a trend that we've lived up to, but for the most part. But no, this time we really wanted to have, the goal was to have everything set up before we leave for Red Bull. So when we come back, we could basically flip the switch and the house is ready to go, and we can just do basic troubleshooting, and our day 0 is going to be built around media. We're going to have all the players come, get proper pictures taken, and do all that kind of stuff, and kind of have a meet and greet. So I think the event itself is going to be a lot more organized, and hopefully should be a lot more fun. The biggest problem, honestly, is the same issue the Dota Cinema guys have, is we want our event to be this fun, casual, you know, come have a few beers, hang out on the couch, cast some Dota, and there's enough money on the line that teams are like, I'd rather be serious and just watch with my teams and review replays, which is great, you know, more power to you, but unfortunately for our event, it's almost gotten too serious where it's a little bit of a struggle to get people on the couch.
So the lack of PyCat is obviously going to affect the outcome of the serials, of the night.
It will. No Pedro, unfortunately. We're all very disappointed.
Okay, I don't have much more to add, so any final words?
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next time I get to Sweden, one of my favorite countries to visit. I've been to 3 Dream Hacks in Jönköping. I haven't been back in a while, but one of these days I hope to get back there. But I appreciate it. I'm always happy to do interviews. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.